In the United Kingdom, the country has begun its human trial of a new vaccine. To tell us more about it and joining us live is Jennifer Ringwood. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, Alma.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I wanted to do this from the garden to show you that England has sunshine too, but my Wi-Fi signal is not strong enough out there.
I thought I was expecting you to be in the garden, but that's okay. That's good.
Okay, I'll get on with the report. So, as you mentioned, the drug trials have started here. Volunteers have begun immunisation with a new UK coronavirus vaccine. I was listening to the BBC this morning, and the medical correspondent Fergus Walsh. That was probably the most interesting story that I've managed to get hold of. Unfortunately, I've not been able to get other reliable sources, so I'm going to stick with the BBC on this one. So the information I have is that about 300 people will have the vaccine over the coming weeks. This is part of a trial led by Professor Robin Shattuck and his colleagues at the Imperial College in London. So animal testing suggests that the vaccine is safe and it triggers an effective immune response. We've previously reported about the Oxford University and it already started human drug trials. So you're probably wondering, why is this one new? Why does this one need to be reported on? Well, I mean, yes, there's a lot. There's 120 vaccine programs globally, but this one is different. It's a new approach. With around 120 vaccine programs, the traditional vaccines tend to be based on a weakened or a modified form of the virus or part of it. But the vaccine from the Imperial College is based on a new approach using synthetic strands of genetic code. This is called RNA. My biology days are way back, so I could tell you a little bit about that. That's ribonucleic acid, and that's the unstable form of genetic code. It's a single strand, whereas DNA is just double strand, isn't it? Anyway, that would be injected into the muscle. The RNA self-amplifies, generating copies of itself, and instructs the body's own cells to make copies of a spike protein found on the outside of the virus. This should train the immune system to recognise and fight coronavirus without having to develop the COVID-19 symptoms. So according to Fergus Walsh again, because only a tiny amount of the genetic code is used in the Imperial College vaccine, a little would go a long way. So the Imperial team says that 1 litre of synthetic material will be enough to produce 2 million doses. So just to give you a visual on that, my 2 litre bottle of water here, that would give you around 4 million doses, and that's a huge amount, which is, it's possibly the fastest that would be usable. So if and when it needs to be mass produced, it could be done here in England. So currently, I believe these have been done in America. I'm not an expert, so I'm going to stick with what Fergus Walsh has been saying and try to quote him as directly as I can to make sure that I don't make a mistake. So it seems that the production of a large amount with Imperial College model is potentially the most efficient at the moment. Fergus goes on to say, all clinical trials begin carefully and slowly to reduce safety risks. When the Oxford vaccination began in April, only 2 volunteers were immunised on the first day. Within a week, 100 were being jabbed every day. With the unique nature of the Imperial College vaccine, this means that only 1 volunteer will be immunised on the first day, followed by 3 more every 48 hours. After a week or so, numbers will slowly ramp up. Unlike the Oxford vaccine, which uses 1 dose, volunteers on the Imperial trial will get 2 shots 4 weeks apart. So Professor Shattuck and his team say there are no particular safety concerns with their jab. It's simply the newness of approach which is making them proceed with caution. There are more than 120 coronavirus vaccines in early development across the world, as I've said earlier. Most of these will never go beyond the laboratory. A further 13 are now in clinical trials. There are 5 in China, 3 in the United States, 2 in the UK, as I've mentioned, and 1 each in Australia, Germany and Russia. All the vaccine teams are keen to stress that they are not in a race against each other, but against the virus. If there are to be enough doses to protect the world, several vaccine approaches will need to be successful. So, again, Professor Shattuck said, we've been able to produce a vaccine from scratch and take it to human trials in just a few months. I mean, that's unheard of. If our approach works and the vaccine provides effective protection against the disease, it could revolutionise how we respond to diseases and breakouts in the future. I think I've misquoted him slightly there, but you get the gist of it. Back to you, Alma.
So, Jennifer, do they anticipate or do they have indicators that show that this could be successful?
Well, it seems that they do. I mean, if we look back at the BBC report, which I feel that is the most reliable source that I've got access to. If we look at chief investigator for the study, that's Dr. Pollock, he's added, I wouldn't be working on this trial if I didn't feel cautiously optimistic that we will see a great immune response in our participants. Mm-hmm. The preclinical trials look very promising. This is another thing that I'm quoting him on here. We're getting a naturalized antibody response, which is the immune response you would want to protect from infection. But there's still a long way to go to evaluate this vaccine. The research has been funded by the government, which was 41 million, as well as 5 million from other donations. I've taken, again, most of this is from the BBC, Alma. It's a breaking story, it's quite new, so where I've been looking at other sources, I've not had enough information to go on. It does seem that they find that this is very, very promising and they're hoping for very good results. But again, as people keep saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so this will take time.
Yeah. Well, I'm really hoping it would be sooner than later. Thank you so much, Jen, for your updates there in the United Kingdom. Thank you, EBC UK Bureau.
Thank you for having me. I'm Jennifer Ringwood for EBC United Kingdom. We live in interesting times.